First, though, President Obama tonight set to address the nation for his sixth State of the Union, and the centerpiece of that address, raising taxes on America's rich. And that will draw a line in the sand with Republicans, and that is where we start. Good morning, everybody. Busy morning here. I'm Bill Hemmer, and welcome to America's Newsroom. How you doing, Martha?
I'm doing well. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So the critics say that tonight's speech will be more about politics than actually setting an agenda and an atmosphere that might be realistic for getting things done with Congress. But we'll see what the president says tonight. He's expected to make a push for income equality by raising $320 billion in new taxes, mostly from the wealthy, to give to the middle class to redistribute that. Republicans are saying that that is, for them, a non-starter.
The president is trying to tune up his version of that old B.J. Thomas "somebody done somebody wrong" song, and it's always somebody else's fault. Somebody's got to pay. The American people are just not listening to it. They don't agree.
The president also expected to announce his plan for free community college and also extending paid sick leave.
On foreign policy, we will hear about resetting the U.S. relationship with Cuba. Freed American hostage Alan Gross will be the guest of the president this evening. And
finally, the threat from ISIS and the terror attacks in Paris committed in the name of the Prophet Muhammad. Will the president finally use the term Islamic extremism? Straight to the White House, Press Secretary Josh Earn is back with us here in America's Newsroom. And Josh, good morning to you. And
good morning, Bill.
Welcome back. First on these ideas for Americans. Why is the middle class still in need of so much help?
Well, Bill, what we saw that those in the middle class were the ones who were hit the hardest by the economic downturn. And so we have made tremendous progress in the economy. We've got 58 consecutive months of private sector job growth. In the third quarter of last year, we saw the strongest growth in one quarter as we've seen in more than a decade. So our economy is demonstrating some real resilience. What that creates us an opportunity to do right now is to focus on policies that will benefit the middle class. And the president actually thinks that by doing that, that's the best way we can grow our economy.
I know a lot of people want this to happen, but the president's going into his 7th year in office. How much time does he need?
Well, Bill, we saw that because of the president's policies, we actually staved off the Second Great Depression. And what we have done now is we've actually pulled ourselves out of that hole, and that's thanks to the grit and determination of the American workers and American entrepreneurs. But what we have seen for more than a generation now are broader trends where people at the top of the income scale are doing much better than those who are in the middle class. So the president thinks this is a good opportunity for us to take a look at our tax policies. And we can actually close the trust fund loophole. We can raise the capital gains rate back to the level it was under President Reagan and actually use that revenue to make sure that middle class kids can go to college, that working families, working mom and dads can actually get an extra tax credit to help them afford childcare.
Let's slow it down just a little bit here, okay? You know these tax ideas are not going to get through a Republican-led Congress. So what's the point?
Well, the point is, Bill, is that this is an opportunity for the President of the United States at the State of the Union address, when he's before the country on live television, before the Congress, to lay out his ideas and his vision for how we can move the country forward. And if Republicans have a different vision, if there are some areas where they disagree, they're welcome to say so. If they think it's more important to protect that loophole for people who have trust funds, then they can certainly make that case. The president believes, however, that the community college education is more important for middle-class families.
But you know what the signal has been already, and if everybody wants to move the country forward, this is not the idea that's going to make it work. So again,
well, I actually think it is an idea that would work, Bill. The problem is Republicans, at least right now, are saying they oppose it. That's the reason that we're not putting in place this idea to move the country forward. But look, this is part of the debate, and one we're happy to have.
And on that debate, if you read any writer out of Washington in the past 24 hours, they say this speech is not about governing today. They say it's about governing in 2016. I just want to get your view on that. Do you agree with that?
I don't. The president's not on the ballot in 2016, so I'm not really sure why people would make that case. The president's putting forward very specific ideas about what we could do today to benefit the middle class and to grow our economy from the middle out. This is middle class economics, and it's what the president's been focused on from the beginning. We've gotten in place some of these policies. We put in place the Recovery Act that was focused on the middle class. We raised taxes on the wealthy and as part of the fiscal cliff deal at the end of 2012. Some of those policies have already benefited our economy. It's one of the reasons that our economy is showing such tremendous resilience right now. That's all the more reason we should continue that strategy and continue that approach to strengthen our economy for the next generation.
So we'll hear about the middle class. We'll hear about taxes. Will we hear Islamic extremism, Josh?
Well, you will hear from the president, Bill, an explanation and a continued explanation of the strategy that we've been pursuing to keep the country safe. And there is no question that one of the chief threats that we face, if not the chief threat that we face right now, is from extremists across the globe who, in the name of Islam, try to carry out acts of violence against America and our interests and our allies around the globe. The president is keenly aware of that threat, and that will be something the president will talk about.
So in the name of Islam, but not Islamic extremism. The White House, this president is not prepared to go there, correct?
Well, Bill, what this White House is very clear about is that the world is not at war with Islam. The world is at war with individuals who, in the name of Islam, try to carry out acts of violence. And that is the reason, Bill, that we have been successful in getting Muslim-majority countries to work with the United States to fight these extremists. Right now, as we speak, there are military pilots from Muslim-majority countries who are flying alongside American military pilots carrying out strikes against ISIL in Syria.
And I think you would agree that you need more of that. Call it what you want, Josh. Final question here. When it comes to defeating Islamic terrorism, and you look at the polling right now, what's happening in Europe, and how much of a concern and priority this is now for the American people, how will you beat ISIS?
Well, Bill, the president has laid out a very clear strategy for how to do this. And the place where that starts is by building an international coalition that right now has more than 60 countries, including, as I mentioned earlier, some Muslim-majority countries who are carrying out military strikes side by side with the American military to degrade and ultimately destroy them. But that can't be the only part of our strategy. We also have a strategy that involves sanctions, that involves trying to choke off the sources of funding that ISIL is using to carry out acts of violence and to try to take over population centers in Syria and Iraq. We're also working with the international community to train moderate Syrian opposition fighters in the region, including in Saudi Arabia, who's agreed to host some of these training operations. We're going to work with our partners to train those forces so they can take the fight to them on the ground.
And I think you'd agree, too, that it cannot happen soon enough. Josh, I'm out of time, but I thank you for your time today, okay? Let's talk after the State of the Union. Josh Earnest from the front line there.
Thank you, Bill.